Hey, what's up everybody and welcome back to News Dose. So, it appears that Xbox wanted to start off the week in a big way as they finally revealed some more gameplay on that Halo Infinite campaign. Yeah, they finally gave us that big reveal that we've all been looking for, and you know what? It's actually looking really good, so we're going to be talking about that later on in the video. Now, also, we did get some more information about those stock shortages for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series. This has been something that's been following these consoles around since they launched, and well, it doesn't sound like it's going to get much better, so yeah, we'll talk about that one as well. To start this week off, though, we're going to be taking a look at that Nintendo Switch OLED that released earlier this month. Early impressions for this console so far has been really good, as that OLED screen really is a striking difference compared to the standard model. I have this console myself, and yes, I can personally say that it is a relatively big upgrade when it comes to that screen. However, there has been a question about this console since its release, and that's about its durability. The Switch OLED does have like this kind of plastic film included on top of the display that's actually intended to stop glass from scattering if it were to shatter. So that's actually a nice inclusion, and yeah, obviously Nintendo, they do encourage you not to take that film off. But there has been this question, with that film, do you actually need a screen protector? And well, thanks to the YouTuber by the name of Jerry Rig Everything, we do now have our answer. He basically went ahead and tried to destroy the Switch OLED to see how easy it is to scratch that screen. Well, he came to the conclusion that yes, you absolutely do need a screen protector. He gave the screen a 2 out of 10 on its hardness rating and says, unfortunately, what we're seeing here are scratches at level 3 and deeper grooves at level 4, which means this new OLED screen has a surface layer of plastic. I mean, I guess that does kind of make sense because it does have that plastic film over top of it, but most certainly this doesn't sound like the most durable OLED screen in the world, so if you do want to give it just a little bit of extra protection, you might want to consider getting a screen protector. I myself use a screen protector, and I've always went with tempered glass myself. That's just my personal preference, but paying an extra $10 to keep your console away from scratches is highly recommended. Moving on, we do have a couple of game ratings to talk about here, as we are starting to enter that season where a lot of these big games are about to release. Of course, you know, a lot of them have been delayed, but we're not going to be talking about that today. We are going to be talking about the games that are releasing, and that includes Age of Empires 4 as well as Guardians of the Galaxy. These are two big releases for the month of October, and both of them are sounding pretty good. One thing that I've noted in the past is that Marvel is going big into the game industry, and we're really seeing that with Marvel-related IP, and once again, we're seeing that with Guardians of the Galaxy. This is a game that's developed by Eidos Montreal, a highly talented studio, you know, the same studio that's worked on games such as Deus Ex, and well, this sounds like they did a really good job with Guardians of the Galaxy. Right now, it does sit at an 81 overall score on Metacritic, as reviewers explain this as a linear but well-designed game, and also the story apparently is fantastic. It does have a big story focus on this game as you take the role of Star-Lord, and apparently we're going to see a lot of personal moments for him throughout the game. So I think that if you do like these story-driven type of experiences, and if you like Guardians of the Galaxy, I think it's going to be a no-brainer to pick this one up when it releases on the 26th. Now, as for Age of Empires 4, this is a huge franchise coming from Xbox Game Studios, which we're going to get back to here in just a moment, but a lot of people, I think, kind of forget just how big this franchise is, but it is massive over on PC, and it's looking like yet another good release as well. It sits at an 83 overall score on Metacritic, and even though it doesn't seem like it's going to just revolutionize the entire genre, it does sound like if you like RTS games or if you like Age of Empires games, this is going to be a must-have release. And that's kind of the thing. I don't really get too involved with this revolutionizing the genre type of thing. I mean, if it's a good game, it's a good game, and Age of Empires 4 does sound like it is a good game. Now, that is actually something that I want to kind of talk about just for a moment. One of the big criticisms with Xbox in general is their first-party studios. Can they produce good games? And, well, over the last couple of years, yeah, they are absolutely proving they can do just that. This year alone, they have 2 Game of the Year candidates being Deathloop as well as Psychonauts 2. Then they also released Flight Simulator on the Xbox Series. Now you have Age of Empires 4, and then we also have Forza Horizon 5 as well as Halo Infinite coming in the coming months. Yeah, they've done a really good job over the last year, so I think they're kind of ending that discussion about whether or not their studios can make good games or not. Now, speaking of Xbox, we do need to talk about Halo Infinite here for a moment because they finally revealed some new gameplay for that single-player campaign. We haven't seen the single-player campaign since that infamous Craig demo that released last year. Of course, that demo was underwhelming to the point that Xbox decided to delay Halo Infinite for an entire year. This was originally supposed to be an Xbox Series launch title, so this was a significant delay for Xbox for various reasons, but the big question, is the wait going to be worth it? And well, now after seeing the gameplay today with the Halo Infinite campaign overview, I can easily say that the wait was well worth it. It looks significantly better than what we saw last year in every way possible. The visuals was a big upgrade, and you can see here just how confident 343 was this time showing this game. They showed a lot more of the world for Halo Infinite. They showed a lot more gameplay and all the different things that you can possibly do and the amount of creativity that you can use in its truly open world. And yes, you did hear that right. It's set on a massive Zeta Halo ring in a truly open world this time, where you can take out enemy strongholds. You can level up with this RPG style of system. Yes, there's going to be some RPG elements as you can upgrade Spartan abilities. You can hunt down the banished, and you can truly be creative in how you approach combat scenarios. This is some stuff that Halo fans have dreamed about for years, and it's finally happening with Halo Infinite. Now, obviously, some people will prefer that more linear style approach, and I completely understand that. I'm a big fan of linear style games. But going back 20 years and looking at the memories on Halo Combat Evolved, this is the first time we entered this Halo world, and you kind of see it with the first level. It's so expansive, it's wide open, and the amount of creativity that you can use in combat was astounding for that time. And it just seems like with Halo Infinite being a truly open world, it almost feels like an expansion of the original Halo Combat Evolved. I think this is actually a natural evolution on Halo, and I think that they can do some really exciting stuff, and we're already seeing that here with the trailer today. They do show some boss-like enemies in this trailer here with their own life bar, and it does make me wonder if that different strongholds has different generals or something like that. Maybe each stronghold has their own general that you have to take out to kind of take over that territory. It does have me interested on whether or not these boss encounters will have different AI. Are they going to behave different than your typical enemies, or are they just going to have just overall more health? Are they going to have special weapons? And there's just a lot of possibilities when it comes to these boss encounters. I'm really interested to see how that plays out. But we're also seeing some brand new enemies as well that are actually quite frightening. Now, some of the older Halo games have had this low-key horror element to it when it comes to the Flood, which I still hope returns. We haven't seen much on that. But nonetheless, we do have some new enemy types in this game that are quite frightening, so I'll be really interested to see how those play as well. But yeah, I think that what this trailer really shows me here is that it is a great mix of new ideas alongside that old school feel for Halo. Now, for me personally, I've always preferred the original trilogy to what 343 has done so far. Halo 1 through 3 had such a huge impact for me growing up. Now, I think Halo 4 and 5, they were good games for what they were, but I still do prefer that original trilogy. And with Halo Infinite, I get a lot of those vibes that I had growing up with the original trilogy. So really excited about that. But I mean, you know, just kind of top things off, you have all of these new abilities. You have that grappling hook, which is phenomenal based off the multiplayer, which by the way is excellent, but it really seems to translate well here in the single player campaign. You see some cool tricks as Master Chief jumps out of a Banshee and then he'll grapple onto another Banshee and then go hijack that one. So the gameplay feels old school, but it also feels new and fresh with that open world style of gameplay. It's more varied with all of the abilities that you have, and you can even upgrade them with RPG elements. There's a lot of stuff here that adds actual depth to the Halo formula, and I think that 343 did a good job at showing that today. They were very confident in this showcase this time as well. I mentioned that before, but the visuals look a lot better. They were even so confident that they also showed a fan favorite being Craig in this demo, so that was a nice little nod to that underwhelming showcase from last year. But we have to go back to the big question, was that delay worth it or not? And I think that going through this year, we can definitely say, yes, it absolutely was worth it. Not only has the competitive multiplayer majorly impressed the community, but now with the single-player campaign, it's also looking really good. Moving on though, we need to talk about those stock shortages once again for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series. This is something that's really just loomed over these consoles since they launched. The PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X has been difficult to get, to say the least, and even with the Nintendo Switch that's been out since 2017, we've seen that console sell out multiple times, and we're seeing that once again with the Switch OLED. And this is for various reasons. Not only are these consoles in high demand, but because there is chip shortages on top of that, it also keeps Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo from manufacturing these consoles at a faster pace. So this has been problematic, and really we could say that for the entire tech industry, but especially when it comes to these newer consoles. Now, we've seen consoles in the past sell out for long periods of time, such as the PlayStation 4 or the Nintendo Wii, but it seems like this generation is just a step beyond that. The hope, though, has been that 2022 will be better and that these consoles will be easier to get. But according to Intel, that might actually not be the case after all. According to them, this is what they had to say. We're in the worst of it now. Every quarter next year will get incrementally better, but they're not going to have supply-demand balance until 2023. So according to them, it does sound like it's going to get a little bit better throughout the year, but all of the problems that we've been seeing is not going to completely dissipate until 2023, and that is not exactly what you want to hear. Now, with that said, even if things incrementally improve throughout the year, that's still actually a really good sign. Something that I think is very noteworthy is that the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 have been selling incredibly fast at like record-breaking demand for their respective platforms. So they have been getting a lot of stock out at a very fast pace. I mean, sure, they could probably get these consoles out at an even faster pace if it wasn't for chip shortages, but if they do continuously put them out at the rapid pace that they have been, we could see initial demand be met sometime in 2022. And when that initial demand is met, then we can start to see these consoles be a little bit more readily available. So it's not just because of chip shortages. So I do think that that is important to keep in mind. Even then though, hearing that we could have chip shortages well into 2022 and maybe even into 2023, that is alarming to say the least. Now, before I go, we do have one more thing to talk about, and this one is an interesting one that kind of took me by surprise, but yet another Xbox game has leaked out online. And this one is because of Jez Corden over at Windows Central. It's really starting to become apparent that Xbox has a Jez Corden problem, as he has leaked out a lot of Xbox games over the last year. It's starting to become scary how many games he has knowledge of, apparently, when it comes to Xbox. But with that said, let's go and take a look at what he had to say over on Windows Central. I'd heard about a potential Wu-Tang Clan theme game some months ago, but Jeff Grubb verified my information on his podcast, adding extra weight to the info I'd received. Funnily enough, a viewer of the podcast asked Grubb if the developer was Brass Lion Entertainment, which lined up directly with what I'd heard also. In details I revealed on my Xbox 2 podcast, I've heard that Shaolin is a third-person melee-oriented RPG complete with 4-player co-op. The campaign is planned to run for a couple of dozen hours, complete with a rich endgame comprised of seasonal content drops and other updates. You'll be able to obtain loot, weapons, gear, and so on in both procedural endgame dungeons and more tailor-made events. Also, it appears that legendary hip-hop group Wu-Tang Clan themselves will be heading up the game's soundtrack. So there you have it. If this is true, Xbox is developing some kind of Wu-Tang Clan theme game, which is definitely interesting. Not something that I really would have expected, but in terms of gameplay, it does sound like it could be interesting at the very least. I guess we'll kind of see how all this turns out if it does indeed turn out to be true, but definitely something a little different than what you might expect from Xbox Game Studios. Let's go and take a look at the poll of the day, though. Rockstar did finally reveal some more information on that Grand Theft Auto Remastered trilogy, which will be making its debut on November 11th. And I wanted to find out which one you all are most interested in. I mean, we are talking about 3 full-size, beloved games here, so which one are you most interested in? And based off the results here, the winner was San Andreas with 50% of the votes, while Vice City took second place at 22%, and then GTA 3 at 5%. Now, 18% of you did say that you aren't looking forward to any of these, that's fine as well. This all does make sense to me, though, just because San Andreas has always been a fan favorite among this franchise. It's really cool to see this game come back, and it does have some visual upgrades, though not everybody is necessarily happy with the character models. But because this game was so immensely popular, selling like 27 million units worldwide, I think that there's going to be a lot of nostalgia with San Andreas in specific. And it is pretty cool that this one will be heading over to Xbox Game Pass day one, so that's a big plus as well. Regardless, we are getting a lot of GTA games this holiday, and with us still waiting for GTA 6, this will be a nice diversion until then. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.